What's going on, everybody? And welcome to the 8th episode of Habibi Hour with your boy Amir. And today I'm joined with two of my guys, Aditya, Bhalla, and Nathaniel, Levan. Say what's good, boys.
What's up? Hey, how's it going?
All right, so normally y'all know how my podcast usually is. I'm making jokes, I'm complaining about things, but given the state of the world at this point in time, I've taken it upon myself to bring up and shed light on some of the things that are going on. Okay, so I have a question for both of y'all. What do you guys think about the protesting and the murder of George Floyd and police brutality and everything that's going on in the world right now?
That is on your foot? Yeah, that's an action-packed question right there.
It is. It is.
All right, so what did you say? You said protesting George Floyd's death and just state of the world.
Right.
I mean, I guess we'll start with George Floyd's death. I mean, obviously it's a terrible thing to what happened. The tragedy, I don't think it ever should have happened.
Right.
I feel really bad for his family and all the people affected by it.
Right. Aditya, I'm sure. I'm sure we're probably all in unison about like this was like super fucked up. Like the fact that something like this would even happen still, like we just had Ahmaud Arbery and this whole thing, like with him getting like literally hunted down, and now this happens like 2 weeks later. Like this is like some shit has to change. Like this shouldn't be happening like this, like so often or at all. But I guess then, do you guys think that like the way people are reacting is good in any way, or is it like really bad? What do you guys think?
I think it's a little more complicated than good or bad. I think like there are good things happening and there are bad things happening.
Right.
And it's hard to parse out what's good and what is bad. But
Can I ask what you think? Like, name what you think is good, and then what you think is bad.
Yeah, for sure. Well, like to me, right, I think there's like an obvious like racism problem here, right? And like to me, that should be pretty like obvious for anyone to see. But I understand a lot of people still don't see it that way. And then when it comes to protests and rioting, I think like at this point, that's justified. Like that's my opinion. I understand a lot of people don't think that's true, but like when you try peaceful protests and that hasn't worked and people don't like that, then how much longer are you gonna go being silenced? You know what I mean? So that's my take on it for starters, I guess.
Levan, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. I might have to disagree with some of that though. The rioting parts, I don't necessarily think it's justified as you say. I mean, I do agree that people have the right to peaceably, assemble, as it says in the Constitution, and, like, believe in what they believe and hold, like, marches and stuff. But rioting, like, I just don't understand, like, violence and looting stores and just, like, causing chaos. I don't think that's going to bring us to justice for George Floyd or anything of combating this problem with racism. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I get that, but I think like I get that viewpoint. But I think where I disagree is like that implies like it's either nonviolent or it is, and like we tried nonviolent protests. Like Colin Kaepernick took a knee, and there was so much outrage for that, and people didn't like that he took a knee during a national anthem, and that was peaceful protest. And now, 4 years later, we're at the same things are happening, and people are going to be fed up. Like people are fed up, and I think that's justified.
Well, I think. Oh, sorry. I think honestly, like I don't agree with the rioting and the protesting. I think like especially what's happening, like I feel like a lot of people are taking advantage of the situation, and the looting and the protesting like I totally understand where it's coming from and why people are so outraged, because it's been happening for so long, and they've tried everything and they felt like they're not being heard. You know what I mean? Like people have been having these protests for years, and stuff like this still happens, and it's like happening so often, and like they're fed up. And the thing is, like I said, I mean, this Ahmaud Arbery thing just happened, and there was some like outlash and stuff, but it wasn't like this, because people try doing peaceful things and stuff, but look what happened 2 weeks later. And I guess people are like, you know what, I'm taking it upon myself to, like, I need to be heard. And if this is the only way to raise a conversation, then in that way, I totally understand, because look at the reaction of people. Everybody is talking about the same thing right now. Everybody. And if these riots didn't happen, it wouldn't be the case. Like, we're in the middle of a pandemic, bro. Like, bro, and this is the biggest thing all over the news, everywhere.
Yeah, the pandemic thing, I actually think it brings up a good point. I feel like part of, as you guys are saying, like, I agree there was kind of a snap too, like people cracked at the death of Floyd, and it just, like, I guess sparked a big reaction, which we're obviously seeing. I think part of that maybe could be attributed to that, like, people were, like, tired of being inside for so long, like trapped and cooped up in their houses or wherever they live.
Right. No, I mean, yeah. I could totally see how... Oh, Aditya, do you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, Levan, you were going to say something earlier. One of your...
Oh, yeah. You said... What'd you say again? So you were saying that you don't agree with the violence, but you get why people are doing it, right?
Me or you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think violent protest at this point is okay. Like, I think it is just
okay. And then you brought up, like, the Kaepernick thing. I guess we'll hit the violence first.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but then it also begs the question, like, how much is too far then? Because you know what I mean. Like, if you're saying okay to violence, when does the line being crossed with the violence then?
Yeah, I mean, that is a difficult question, but like, I think like there has never been a line drawn when it comes to violence against Black people. Like, literally every facet of society is defined by how it's racist against people of color, and most harmfully towards people of Black, like people who are Black. So like, I think when we look at poverty, that's disproportionately Black and Brown. When we look at incarceration, that's disproportionately Black and Brown. So like, when we look at society, we see all these harmful and violent things happening to Black people, and I don't think like burning down a Target is like equivalent to all of the violence and oppression that Black people have faced for hundreds of years now.
Yeah, like, Amir, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I get, like, what you're saying. They're not equal in any sense, but I also feel for, like, the people, like, who work at the Target, or maybe not even Target, but, like, local businesses, you know what I mean? Like, they're hurting people who aren't a cause of the problem, or like who hurt them, you know what I mean? I just have a problem with that. Like, I understand to agree, but you're just like, a lot of this, it's just, I don't know, it's just not helping what you want to do. Instead, it's hurting people that, like, you're not against at all.
Yeah, I think, I mean, okay, if I Levan, you said like you don't see how like burning down businesses and stuff like that is going to help, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so like I think where we can all agree is like, I don't think small businesses should be burned down. Right? Like, if you are a person who's like worked your whole life to like create this business and it's a small business, like burning that down and looting that is wrong, and I agree with that. I think like when it comes to the Target, the Nike, like these are corporations that are like gonna be okay, like
right.
These are multi-billion-dollar corporations. Like Target CEO.
Yeah, I heard about that actually.
A statement saying like, the Target CEO said like the Target's going to be okay, and like they're paying all the workers. Like those big companies can afford to lose that stuff. And like if it's about sending a message, then like I don't see a problem with that happening.
Well, here's.
No, I definitely.
Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me just say something really quick. What I think like a big problem is like a lot of people, like especially the media, is like focusing so much on like the violent protesting and the looting of certain things instead of like focusing on like all the thousands and millions of people across like America that are protesting peacefully. Like in every city, every state across the US, there are protests. But for whatever reason, the only ones that make the news are the violent ones. And in doing that, you're painting the image of like the entire thing like as negative. And like you even have like people calling it like, oh, these guys are ruining everything for themselves. You know what I mean? And I in a sense I agree that, you know, looting and doing things like that is kind of counterproductive to a certain extent. I understand where it's coming from, but the whole central idea, and a vast majority of people that are protesting against this aren't doing things like that. But the media is twisting it, and we're only hearing about the bad instead of the good. And I think that's taking away from like the message of it, and it's like trying to like, I guess, taint what happened. And like people are more focused on the small businesses and stuff like, and like the large corporations, the looting, as it should be talked about. But I think the biggest thing that should be talked about is what the hell happened, like why they're doing this. Like there's a reason why all of this is happening to begin with, and people are focusing on the backlash as opposed to the root of the problem.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the media, you're right. They choose to frame what we see, and then all of them are obviously a little biased, some more than others in some way. So that's just what we're gonna get.
Yeah, I think like we have seen though, like we've seen reporters like get arrested. Like there was a video of like a cop like shooting at a reporter. Like
oh yeah, that's happening everywhere.
Stuff is like I think the mayor of Cleveland today said that like reporters aren't going to be allowed downtown. And like
that's ridiculous.
Like, the media has its own problems with bias and all that. But like at the end of the day, like you need to provide people some sort of outlet to where they can see what's happening. I think like
no, I mean
I understand that like looters are escalating things and like that stuff, but in a lot of cases like we've seen people protest and then police come and like that causes tensions to rise. I think like if you didn't, like I think you could stop the protest today if you arrested the 3 other officers that were there during when George Floyd was killed,
right?
And didn't have police at these protests, because what's happening is a lot of times, you know, 1 or 2 protesters will be aggressive, or police become very aggressive, and I think that's like that's kind of a fuel to the fire that is unfortunate, but people are fed up, and I think that's ultimately
right. I think that brings up another point of like the justice system and like people that are doing things like that. Like, oh yeah, like there's obviously backlash and things like that. And you make a good point that people are like even more angry that justice isn't being served. And like this, like apparently he's getting charged with 3rd-degree murder when literally, like, I don't know, like 3rd-degree murder is classified as like basically manslaughter, and manslaughter typically is like you hit somebody with your car by accident if you're drunk or something like that. This guy literally killed a man on camera.
Yeah.
Like he was begging for his life. Like what the hell? And he still is getting charged with manslaughter, not 1st-degree murder. And then the people that were involved, the bystanders, which are honestly just as bad because they watched it all happen. How can you be a human being, in my opinion, and a cop, people that called so you can protect them, and then you're watching somebody die. You're watching one of your coworkers kill somebody, and you're not doing anything about it? And now they're walking free? That's bullshit to me.
Yeah, can I say 2 things real quick?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, Aditya, I just wanted to go back to that one point of when you're talking about like big business and big corporations. I just wanted to say one thing, then we can end with it. Like, yeah, you said they can definitely take the hit, and they probably can because they're successful companies, but that also doesn't mean that, like, they're deserving of it at the same time. You know what I mean? That's just my personal opinion. And then, but then also get into, like, talks of, like, economics and all that, but we don't go into that. And then, Amir, your stuff, I was going to ask, do you think him being charged with third-degree murder and not second or first, is that an injustice in your eyes?
I think honestly, I think it's complete injustice because, I mean, my whole point is, like, nowadays, like, a lot of minorities, including black people, make up the majority of federal prisons. And so a lot of the times people get charged for drug crimes or, you know, like possession of marijuana, and they'll be locked up for 20 plus years. And then we have someone literally murder someone on camera and he's only getting charged with manslaughter. Like, that's ridiculous. And given the lawyer, apparently the lawyer helped acquit some other guy that did something like that. I forgot his name, but he did the same thing. And he basically, I think he walks free now. And so given that, even if he does serve a sentence, I honestly don't, like, in my eyes, he should serve life. He should serve life for what he did. Because it was cruel. It was fucking cruel what he did. Mm-hmm. And I think in my eyes, he should serve life. Okay? And if he's getting charged with something like third-degree murder and it's not going to equal life in prison, then I think it's a complete injustice. I don't think this guy should ever walk on a sidewalk again, honestly, after what he fucking did.
Mm-hmm. Did he? Yeah.
Yeah, so a couple things. So I think, like, coming back to corporations, like, I think, like, to some extent they are deserving when it comes to, like, how are these big corporations treating their workers, and, like, are they treating them fairly? And in a lot of these cases, they're not, whether it's through, like, low minimum wages that aren't livable, that kind of thing. But like you said, the economic argument isn't really the main focus right now, so we'll talk about that later.
Right.
Or we don't have to talk about it, but yeah, I mean, I do think, like, third degree means it's unintentional. Like, second degree, I think, is intentional but not premeditated, and then first degree is premeditated, meaning, like, you planned it beforehand.
Right.
But, like, I don't think you can put your knee on someone's neck for 10 minutes, like, and they're yelling, "I can't breathe."
Right.
And then you say, like, "Oh, it was an accident." Like, I'm sorry.
Right.
Like,
No. And then
you murdered the person in cold blood. Like, I think, I do think third degree is injustice.
And I don't know if you guys heard. Sorry to just kind of budge in, but I don't know if you guys heard. But, like, a lot of people are making the argument that he had premeditated health issues and he died because of that, and not because someone was holding his entire body weight on his neck. Like, what for 10 minutes? And he's begging, he's saying he can't breathe. And then people have the audacity to say, oh, he had heart problems, he had diabetes, whatever, he was gonna die. He died because of that. I'm like, what?
No, that's just insane.
People have the audacity. And they're trying to defend this. I don't understand how you can defend some shit like this when it's all on camera. Everybody saw it. We all saw it. And then people try to defend it. And then call all the people that are, like, walking out against it and making a stand and talking about it. They're calling them freaking thugs and they're ruining society, and they're not getting anything accomplished. I'm like, what the hell? That shit pisses me off. Like, it's ridiculous to me.
Real quick, the thing is, like, there's the one officer who did it. There's the four officers who were, like, the three other officers who are there watching this happen. But I think the officer's name is, like, Derek Chauvin.
Yeah.
He has, like, 18 complaints. He's had, like, shooting incidents before. Like, the culpability doesn't stop at him. It doesn't stop with the other officers. Like, the entire police department is, to some degree, responsible for that. And, like,
I agree.
Like, I think that's, like, a general problem with policing is that, like, I think it takes, like, 8 weeks to become a police officer.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. And police are often deciding the narrative when it comes to, like, court and they're witnesses to everything that happens. But like a lawyer goes to law school, a lawyer has to go to school, including undergrad, for 7 years.
Right.
A police officer gets a badge and a gun at 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's, I have different views about like what we should do about policing. Because I think like the true answer to solving these problems is to defund police and not give them as much funding as they're getting.
Okay.
But if you're gonna have police, like 8 weeks of training and giving someone a badge and a gun and saying go protect and serve people, like that's not a recipe for success. And it's shown through other things as well. Like police officers are like 40% as likely, or 40. I think it's like 40% of police officers are in homes that have domestic violence compared to like 10%.
Damn.
So like there's a clear problem with like giving people power.
Right.
Giving people power without a lot of training, without without a lot of the tools they need to be able to quote protect and serve.
Well, Levan, what do you think?
Yeah, I was gonna say. So I want to ask you, like, are you getting to the thing that the system itself is, you think, is broken?
Yeah, the system is broken.
Okay.
In my opinion.
What about your thoughts on being a police officer in general? Do you believe that, like, the system is flawed and it teaches them, I guess, do this? Or do you think most policemen are good and there's a few minority of bad ones? Or what do you guys think?
Yeah.
Well, personally,
just say anything.
Yeah, here I'll go and then you can go. Right. But my whole thing is, and I was gonna ask you guys this question because I think honestly, police officers are pinned and like what's being happened, like people are hating on police officers when like a majority of them are good, and every time something happens, if we're getting robbed, if someone dies, damn well who we're calling a cop, whether you like it or not, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of these guys are getting such bad rep from like the few that are doing things like this. But then again, at the same time, I think the system is so flawed because, like I said, this guy was acquitted. He had like 18 complaints on racial grounds alone. How the hell does he still have a job after that shit? That's ridiculous to me. You're telling me that a police officer of the law that you call every time you need something and they're supposed to help you, okay, can have a job after getting 18 complaints of racial like prejudices against civilians. That's fucking ridiculous to me that he still even had a job. This shouldn't have even happened. And people like that shouldn't fucking have a job to begin with. Like, I think literally the only way to solve this, obviously there's no way to solve racism. There isn't. But there is a way to flesh out who the hell you give a fucking gun and badge to. You know what I mean? Giving people that have racial prejudices, and even if you can't prove it at first, if they get a complaint, they should be fucking fired right on the spot because they're not, bro. America's whole thing is life, liberty, freedom, everybody's equal, okay? The melting pot. But then you have shit like this going on and people that don't agree with America's beliefs carrying out shit like this on other people, on other fucking Americans. It doesn't make any sense to me. Mm-hmm. I just don't think these people should even, like, if you get a complaint, fire their fucking asses. Don't give them second chances because second and third chance could mean a fucking death like this again. I don't know what you guys think.
I think I think policing generally it requires. I don't think it is a productive institution. I think the far left side of this argument is that we shouldn't need police and ideally we wouldn't need prisons and our criminal justice system is so caught up in this idea of punishment when our entire focus when it comes to people who do wrong things should be on rehabilitation instead of putting people in jail and just letting them sit, right? But I think, we do see problems with police departments generally. They in Glenview, for example, we don't see police that much. We see them driving around, but they are not intimidating the community. They're not, they just don't hold that much of like an active presence, right?
Right.
That's not true. Like in other places, like they are terrorizing communities, and like a lot
Right.
of police departments generally enable that type of behavior. And so I do think like there's a point where we can say we don't need as this much funding for police in the first place. Like when it comes to if we're talking about coronavirus, like we had a national conversation about how doctors don't have masks, they don't have personal protective equipment,
Right.
they don't have enough ventilators, they don't have enough ICU beds. Like, how is it then that these police officers, like every single one, tear gas, like these rubber bullet guns, like they have tanks, like how is it that we can get to the point where like our hospitals don't have the supplies they need, but at an instant, police have everything they need to suppress riots or suppress people generally? And I think that's my point of view at least.
Levan?
Okay. Yeah,
Sorry, that was a lot.
no, that's fine. These are my basic thoughts. I personally support the police and the police forces. I think that the majority of policemen are good, and there are bad apples within the police force, which is awful, but just like there are bad people within any industry. So yeah, and that's always just a hard problem to solve. And then personally, I think being a police officer is a hard job, especially right now, but just in general, I don't think we give them enough credit as they should have, because at the end of the day, they're there to protect us, and they serve the public by doing that. That's what I think.
So
I mean, like you mentioned a few. Do you want to talk in here?
No, go ahead. Go.
Well, like you mentioned a few bad apples. So like in certain professions, like you can't afford to have bad apples. Think like airline pilots. Like what if you said like an airline pilot? Like, oh, there are a few bad airline pilots. Like no, like every airline pilot has to land the plane. You know, and like that has to be the case with policing. But like generally, when you put people in positions of power, they are likely to abuse it. And so, like, fundamentally, that's, I think, this is what is wrong with policing. And then, what was your second point? Did you have another point?
I said that, I think being a policeman is a harder job than we give them credit for. Or policemen.
Positions of, I think when you have positions of power, it's inevitable that it will be abused. And, that leads to the fundamental problem of policing is that majority, people of color are facing oppression at the hands of the power of the police, and people who have a badge and the authority to really create a narrative and cause oppression in these communities.
Mm-hmm. Aditya, can I ask you, do you personally trust the police?
I would say I don't. I don't trust the police. Okay. I don't know. I don't feel safe when a police officer is around. And I understand my experience as an Indian person is very, very different from a black person.
Right.
Whatever. I can't imagine what goes through a black person's mind when they see the police. But
right.
As someone who is not pro policing, I don't feel safe around.
Well, I just wanted to ask you guys a question really quick. So we're all
ignore my question, bro.
Sorry, my bad. I think this is kind of important. I just wanted to ask because just for the listeners right now, all three of us are people of color. I'm Palestinian and Puerto Rican. Aditya's Indian, and Levan, where are you from again?
Korean.
Okay, so Levan is Korean, and so I don't know if you guys were like how you were raised regarding how you your parents told you to act around the police. For me specifically, I mean I was told the same things keep your hands on the wheels, never resist, don't reach for anything, always ask permission to do things, because, you know, things like that do happen. And so I guess my question to you guys is, were you kind of raised in a similar way to, you know, kind of fear the police in a certain extent because of the things that are happening? And like, were you raised to follow certain procedures because of, I guess, the color of our skins?
You want to take it, Aditya, or me?
Sure, I'll take it. So, like, in my household, at least, like, it wasn't much of a discussion. Like I think there is an assumption that, like, if you have an interaction with a police officer, you'll be okay. And, like, I think, like, the three of us still speak from a position of privilege when it comes to that. Like, even as people of color, like we don't know, and we can never truly experience the Black experience.
Right.
I understand, like, same things. Like, put your hands on the steering wheel, like, don't make any, like movements, like, that kind of stuff.
But I feel like, here, you can continue. I just want to say one thing. Those are all, like, commonly known things. Like, if you don't do that, like, that's just kind of being dumb, no matter what race you are. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But keep going.
Well, yeah, that was pretty much my point. Is that, like, we can't really speak to the Black experience because the three of us don't know what that is. And, like, that
right.
That kind of is forces us to try and understand that, and we should try and understand that.
Right.
In a way that we really empathize and, like, make a difference, but ultimately, like, that's not an experience we'll ever truly understand.
Yeah, for me, like, I guess it wasn't really a big deal, and also, like you guys said, like, we grew up in, like, a fortunate area.
Right.
Not many interactions with the police. But, like, I've always just, like, learned to respect an officer, you know, what you guys said, like, keep your hands on the wheel, just, like, common sense things.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely know that, like, it's different experiences
Right.
for people in the Black community.
Right.
I don't know if you guys know, I watched this video today. Do you guys know Dave Portnoy, like the Barstool founder?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I saw the video.
Yeah, so he put out a video, and basically in one part of it, he's saying, like, yeah, I'm white, I grew up white, like, if there was ever a police car behind me, like, I never had to be worried of, like, them pulling me over, like, obviously given that he wasn't speeding or anything.
Right.
And he's like, if I've ever jaywalked, I've never been scared that I'll just, like, get a knee in the back of my neck or something. But he's like, for people, like, Black people, like, that's different. Like,
Right.
they don't have the trust in the police. And I agree with that. Like, their experience is different than white people or even other minorities.
Right.
It's like, yeah, it's just way different, and we'll never know it.
Right. So I guess my whole like point in bringing it up to begin with was just to say, like, I mean, even like non-Black people like us, like, at least in my case, like, we were taught this way. And you know, it's not as common to see against, I guess, my like race particularly. But like, my whole point is, if I'm being taught like that and I'm not Black, imagine like growing up in a Black household. And I've talked to a lot of people about this, actually, like, they're raised, or at least from the people that I've talked to, they've told me that, like, they're raised to fear the police from a young age. Like they're like literally scared shitless of the police. Every time they get pulled over, they're scared that something can happen, because whenever you hear about a Black guy pulling over or police or someone getting shot, it's almost always a Black person, which is ridiculous. That the people that you're supposed to call when you're in trouble, and the people that are supposed to enforce the law, you're like so scared of them. It's just, I mean, it's just so horrible. Like that the people that are supposed to protect and serve are the people that are in a way terrorizing you.
Yeah, they, like, don't have reasons to, you know, like we do, to, I guess, like, trust, or maybe not even trust in, like, Aditya's case, but at least, like, not fear for your life in situations.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I guess then my final question is, like, what the hell do we do about this? Because, you know, I feel like in my opinion, racism is always going to be around. just because, I mean, it's been instilled in the roots of our country, unfortunately. And there's always going to be a racist person out there, like whether you like it or not. There's no way to stop it. There's no way to change, I guess, everybody's beliefs. But what can we do as I guess a generation and as a nation to stop shit like this from happening, to stop seeing police brutality and shootings and killings of unarmed minorities and black people specifically? What do we do to stop this? How can we change? Because, I mean, I feel like these protests and stuff like that, they've been happening since I cannot remember when this wasn't a problem, because it's been a problem since we were born. And so what the hell do we do to change it? You know? What do you guys think?
Yeah. Levan, do you want to go or should I?
I don't care.
All right, I'll take it then. Well, I think there are a lot of things, right? So, yeah, it's kind of a loaded question, like, what do we do? And I think, one, there's what we're seeing a lot of people do right now is donate, protest, sign petitions. Like, those are effective ways, I think, to make some changes. But ultimately, how do we get to the point where we live in a place where we don't have to deal with this kind of stuff anymore? And I think, in my opinion, that comes from having faith in our generation. And I think we've seen so many young people who are out on the streets, who are donating our age, and they're getting involved, and there's more and more pressure for them to get involved, because, I mean, this year has just been crazy. So I think kids are really responding to that, and I think that's good, because once we get to a point where, you know, right now I think like Congress is like one of the oldest Congresses in history. Like, they can't really relate to our generation. So once we get to that age where like this generation has an opportunity to run for office and make the changes and end corruption and make all the changes that we need to see, I think that's what's encouraging. And also, you know, having conversations like this one, like I understand that Levan and I are on like pretty different ends of this argument, but like I don't think we should shut off that conversation. You know?
Right. I think
like, this conversation in itself is a good thing, because we're bringing together people with different views and saying, okay, what can we agree on? Like, throughout this whole conversation, we agreed on a lot of things.
Right.
You know, one, small businesses can.
Right.
You know, we should say small businesses. The killing is bad. Like, those are basic things, but it's hard to know in these times. You know, what can we agree on?
Right.
It's discouraging a lot of times, but having conversations are important, because it's encouraging to see, like, there are things that we agree on, but how do we get to a common place?
Right. Well, I think honestly.
Yeah, totally.
Levan, I mean, you can go ahead. Let me just say something really quick. I think, like, this whole thing is so much bigger than politics. This is like systematic oppression and racism. And so that's why, you know, when a lot of people have been talking about, they're bringing up political like ideas when like talking about this, and I think they're completely bogus for doing that, because this is a life. This isn't politics. This isn't, you know, like taxes and stuff like that. This is completely, I feel like people should be on the same page. Like this should be something that I guess brings everybody together. Everybody should be on the same page in saying that what happened was wrong, instead of trying to churn it in like a political way, and which just causes more division. And like, I think people, and I know a lot of people, including a lot of people of privilege, like all of us. I mean, we've been privileged enough to live in such a great neighborhood. I think we're doing a really good job of talking about it and raising awareness, you know, even if it's not happening in our backyard. But unfortunately, like, a lot of people still out there are like on completely opposite sides of the spectrum. Like, I think people should be walking together. Like, I've seen a lot of police officers and protesters walking together. I think that's the only way we can change, is if we're all on the same page that something needs to change. Because as long as, in my opinion, as long as there's division and people are like, but this happened, you know, they keep justifying and making excuses, nothing's ever going to get done, because there's always going to be someone like, fuck that. You know what I mean? I think we have to be on the same page, and I don't know what I don't know what the solution is. I don't know where we go, per se, but I think we all need to be in agreement of it, because otherwise it's just not going to work. Levan?
Yeah, what Aditya was saying about like having conversations with people who don't necessarily see at the same perspective or viewpoint as you, I think that's key in helping to solve issues like these. Like, America's super polarized today, we all know it.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who are just unwilling to talk to the other side without it getting into like a heated argument where people like get emotional and angry and they don't learn from each other.
Right.
And then for like the problem of racism, it's such a hard one, I think, because I don't know if there will ever be like a racist-free America, just because that'd just be a very hard thing to do.
Right.
But I do think we're definitely making steps towards that. Like you guys were saying, like, it's a generation thing. We've come a long way. 10, 20, 30, 40, like 60 years ago, we've come a long way, but there's still a lot to be done. And unfortunately, like, the change is slow, but it's definitely coming. And like, it's coming because people are peacefully protesting to bring awareness to it. Like, it's just things that like people are starting to recognize that it's there. And I think like even the people who you wouldn't call racist, like there are a lot of people who aren't racist but still have prejudices. I think when they start to like realize that they have those internal prejudices and like start to work on them and start to change them, that's when we'll start to see major improvement in the way just how American society functions.
Yeah, and I think like we all agree, obviously, that racism is a problem, whether you think it's systemic or whether you just think it is a problem that society has. Like, I think regardless of what you think the specific problem is, like, it's time for communities of privilege to step up. And that means, like, white people specifically who have always benefited from this, like, they need to step up. People who are in privileged minorities, usually referring to the Asian community, who often get the better end of the minority stick. I think it's time that those communities say, like, we're not going to stand for this anymore, and like we're going to give black and brown people a voice because they need it, you know.
Right. I mean, like I said, I mean, I really think that the only way to stop this is to get everybody on the same page. And I think one of the problems is like the way you're raised, and the way like if your parents are racist and you see how they act, then like you're breeding more racists, you know what I mean? But I think what's so good, and I know a lot of people, like, I don't know about you, but a lot of people have been complaining about like, so, because this is everywhere, like everywhere, all what people's talking about, they're like, oh, I'm so sick of seeing it, but like it needs to be said, because for the people, everyone needs to hear about this. Everyone needs to see what's going on, because especially people like, say they have a racist parents or racist background, you know what I mean? Those kids and that generation needs to know that society is not going to stand for that shit anymore, and they need to make their own opinions on things rather than, you know, like just listening and agreeing with everything that their parents say. And I think that's a big root of the problem. But like I said, I think once everybody finally gets on the same page, which is way, way easier said than done, but I think everybody needs to be in unison, or at least a very vast majority of people need to be in standing together, because like, I mean, in unity there's strength. As cliche as that is, it's the truth. And the more like divided we are, the less shit is gonna get done, and nothing is gonna change if we're always fighting about like lesser issues, like these riots and stuff like that, rather than a fucking person's life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But
like, yeah, we all want the same goal. We just gotta figure out. But we all want the same goal, but we each think there are different ways of getting there. We have to figure out like what we agree on, what to compromise on, you know?
Right. Well, I mean, this has been going for like 45 minutes. I think I really, this was a fucking fantastic conversation. Thank you both, for real. Honestly, I think that the more that we get to talk about it and the more that more discussions that happen is like the better. You know what I mean? People need to understand, and I want to thank you both for coming on here for real, helping to raise awareness of this problem, even though you guys were on opposite sides of the political spectrum. We proved today that we can come together, even if we have, beside political beliefs aside, we can come together and have the discussion and agree upon that shit needs to fucking change. And we're the people that are going to have to do it. So thank you guys so much, seriously.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me and having me on, Amir. It was a blast getting to be able to talk to you guys and agree to disagree and just having like a civil course conversation on issues that we all need to talk about.
Levan's right. Like we do need to have these conversations, and I think like I'm pretty hopeful about our generation, what we can do to hopefully finally do the change that I think we all do ultimately want to see.
Right. And with that,
so thanks for having us.
Of course. With that, we are out. Thank you guys so much. If you made it this far, you're the homie. Let's make change happen. Thank you.